Tibet people don't breathe, but some yogis apparently restrain their breath completely. I can't imagine, but I've heard we hear from some ancient teachings that in yoga sometimes you can even control your breath or breathe once. They say in India, how many of you have been to India? Most of you regulars have been, but if any of you are you all in the yoga village? Yoga village? Where are you from? Japan, wonderful. This word Japan, I often wonder whether it actually has a root. There's a very ancient Sanskrit word called japa. Japan. I don't know if it's related. It means chanting mantras or, that type of thing. So, Japan is famous for, Buddhism and spirituality and so on. Where are you from?
England.
England?
Yeah.
England? What are you doing here? They gave you a visa? You got lost?
My dad's Australian.
I think you told me the other day. I think we talked for briefly. Yes? I vaguely recollect that. Born in England, where? Tooting. Tooting Beck. Tooting Beck. We were in Tooting Beck a few months ago. You remember? That's where Geary lives.
Oh,
yeah, Tooting Beck. We were in his house in Tooting Beck. Well, welcome to Australia. You've been here a few days? A few months. Been here. Wonderful. Everyone's coming back from them just in time. It looks like it's raining. Evening shower. Huh? Thunderstorm? Is it? That's fun. Makes everything more exciting. Well, welcome everyone. You're coming in thick and fast now. So we're going to be, where do we get to? India. Many of you have been to India. In India, even today, it is said, although who can prove it? I often wonder why they don't come out and prove it. But they say that there are yogis who have been living 700 or more years. Now that's a bit more than the Guinness Book of Records says, the oldest person on the planet, or whatever they call it nowadays. 700 years. How do they do that? Well, you see, when we're born, it's your fault, Tara. You were chanting Hare Krishna. You brought this rain on. It's brilliant. But they know how to control their breath. It's said that each of us has a certain allotment of breaths in our lifetime. So they control their breath. Instead of breathing like we don't even think about it probably, unless you're having a problem, right? You don't even notice it. It's just spontaneous, right, Gopal? You don't think, now we've got to breathe. In, out, in, out. You don't even think about it. It just goes on, right? More or less. Many things like digestion's like that too. It just goes on. Or it doesn't go on. You have a problem. But these yogis, they're able to regulate their breath. So they breathe very, very slowly. In this way it's said, because they don't have a problem with eating, they don't need to eat much, if anything. They can extend their life. But apparently they don't mix up. They don't come in the public view. And they also can look very young, even though they're hundreds of years old. Now that's what is said, and I'm not going to go any further on that. I have no proof. I'm not going to even argue. I don't even care. But that's one example of, let's say, in that case, of the effects of yoga. There are many others. Sometimes if you've been to the Himalayas, you'll see yogis, and they've got all kinds of mystical. Sometimes from yoga you get mystic powers. What type of mystic powers could you get? Some are visible. Some are visible. What type of mystical powers that some yogis, and sometimes they do demonstrate it. What type of mystic powers? Walking on water, okay. We're not going to say Jesus Christ, he was a yogi, but he was much more than this type of yogi. He used some of these mystic powers to convince people to develop a little faith in spirituality. Doesn't need to do it. It's a byproduct. It's not important. Walking on water, even there are millions of bugs. They don't practice yoga, but they can walk on water very easily. No hassle, right? They can fly sometimes. So do the birds fly. Now, there's one mystic power which is not uncommon. It's sometimes called magic, but they can obtain or bring things, prapti, from a far distance. Say they're in India. Now, what do you have here in Australia, which is unique to Australia?
Kangaroos.
Okay, they may not want to bring a kangaroo to India, but what do they have as unique in the way of food in Australia? Anything? Maybe not anything specific, huh? Huh? You have to shout your head off. You got termites?
Vegemite.
Vegemite? What the heck's that? That's some kind of mite, a vegetarian mite? What is it? Are you sure that's vegetarian? Vegemites? Sounds suspicious. Okay, say they want a bottle of Vegemite, whatever that is, and you're a yogi, and you're living in the Himalayas, and you've perfected the path, this type of yoga, after a long, long time, and you get powers. This is fact. You know, any kind of austerity, materially also, people perform austerities, they get some kind of called shakti, some energy, some strength, some, power. So they get this power called prapti siddhi. And this means they can actually, on the subtle platform, they can bring something from a far distant place, transfer it onto the subtle platform, just like we do with sound, like, your television does it in a sort of a two-dimensional way, not three, but they can do it three-dimension. They take it and they bring it in a subtle platform and remanifest it right there in wherever you are, Rishikesh, say. And there you have it. Your Vegemite, just whatever yogi's been hankering for. A bottle of Vegemite. Perfection of yoga. And there are some who can make gold. But, so what? It's mystical, it's magical. We have magicians all over the world doing different magics, but it doesn't really do much good. It's not a spiritual result of yoga. But let's get back to yoga. I think many of you are interested in yoga of various kinds. Is that right? I don't know your name, but I can see you're definitely a person who has practiced yoga in this or previous life. What is your name from Japan? Neo, something like that. Leo? Yeah, Rio? Rio! But you're from India. No, you're from Japan. You're not from Brazil or wherever it is. Rio. That's a Spanish name, huh? Rio de Janeiro. They do a lot of yoga, different type of yoga down there, by the way. Yeah. So, when people think of yoga nowadays, it's not quite like that. They don't expect that. What do people expect from yoga nowadays? Some of you may be practicing various kinds of yoga or know about yoga or would like to know about yoga. What do people think is yoga? Pardon? I know you're trying your best, but I think it's my ears are not very sharp these days.
Just the physical.
Physical. Okay, thank you. Mostly, I suppose, it's physical, but it does affect your mind. Now, a lot of people take up yoga for physical reasons, don't they? A lot. Certainly not all. Quite a few for mental reasons, because it does help your subtle body. The various postures, if done properly, the breathing exercises, and so on, can actually help pacify or still your minds. They can. That's okay. We do need to do that. You need to be healthy. You need to eat. We need to sleep. We need to keep healthy and so on. And yoga may help us in that regards too. But still, it's material. So whether you see it physically or subtly, it's material. Whether it's for peace of mind or physical health. And a lot of people, especially elder ladies, often take up yoga or try to take up yoga. They have a little hard time sometimes putting their legs around their back of their necks and things like that. You've seen these yogis, they're really far out sometimes, exerciser. Their legs are kind of all curled around here, and they're like balancing on, their one toe or something. Pretty expert. We have quite a lot of devotees actually who are expert yogis before they joined. I was not one of them. I can tell you that. However, Krishna does mention this yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, this type of yoga is generally, when we talk about, let's say, postures, what type of yoga is that called? Pardon? Hatha. Hatha Yoga is the simple name, Hatha. Hatha Yoga. It is these very, to help, as I said before, to help balance the life airs in the body, help your digestion, help you to become more self-controlled, less affected by the goings on of the world around us, more healthy, and so on. Better lifestyle. It's a foundational kind of yoga. Then you go further, Ashtanga Yoga, which will deal with a little bit more the life airs in the body and the various ways of raising the life air up to the crown, and a purified or perfected Ashtanga yogi will then leave the body in full, in steady consciousness. Anyway, these are probably things that don't happen much now, but different. And then what other type of yogas does Krishna speak about in the Bhagavad Gita? Jnana Yoga, which is very philosophical analysis. Sankhya Yoga also a little bit more scientific, but the same kind of, taking the elements, analyzing, is it this or that? Going right back and back and back to look to the origins of the very atomic structure, basically. Science, in its own way, follows that kind of system to a certain extent. What else do we have in Bhagavad Gita? I'm not interested in Bhakti. Anything else in Bhagavad Gita? That's for people who can't do other yogas, isn't it? That's for you. Buddhi Yoga, very good. Buddhi Yoga. What is Buddhi Yoga? Oh, yeah, it's usually intense. It's also related to Bhakti Yoga too, of course. It can be simultaneous. Buddhi Yoga. What other type of yogas are there?
Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Action. And that's more than anything, it's emphasized in the Bhagavad Gita, probably. Because that can lead to Bhakti Yoga, which is Yoginam api sarvesham magatenantu shrudavam bhajite yomam samayaktatamautamataha. Krishna says, of all yogis, what does he say? Yeah, he who is absorbed in me, abides in me, engaged in my service, is the greatest of all yogis. Because the purpose of yoga is not just to attain some mystic power, it's not just to become healthy, to become peaceful, to whatever, live a long life, control your senses. What is the purpose of yoga? The very word yoga gives you a clue. What does the word yoga mean? Pardon? The literal translation is linking up, isn't it? It's the word yoke in English comes from the same root. When you have bullocks or anything, yoke, put the yoke on, linking them to the plough. So it means to link, and it's linking what? Pardon? Linking to? Someone said? That was you, Akadashi? Oh, amazing. Now, Akadashi, what were you practicing for much of your life?
Kriya Yoga.
Kriya Yoga is another similar form of Karma Yoga in some ways. Action, yoga of action. She was very much, she wrote books on Kriya Yoga, is that correct?
Yes.
Siddha Yoga, Kriya Yoga.
Books were given to me by a Swami in India, who I didn't know anything about. Didn't know anybody in India. And he sent me this 12 Kriya Yoga books, and he said, please do this with my blessings.
And there you go. So most of Kadishi's life, she was practicing Kriya Yoga, extensions of that, maybe some Siddha Yogas and so on. And now she's practicing Bhakti Yoga. Is that right? You like Bhakti Yoga? Not sure.
I wouldn't be without it.
It wouldn't be without it. It's the nature of the soul. It's linking. All yogas are stepping stones, practically speaking. Oh, I've knocked it over. All forms of yoga are meant to lead us on to the path of connecting with our eternal nature, our eternal self. It's not just in relation to the material world. We use the material world, our bodies and so on, but it's to elevate the soul to our eternal constitutional nature. Who are we? What is our eternal nature? So Bhakti Yoga is actually the yoga of the eternal nature of the soul. So they lead to that. And the beauty about what we call Bhakti Yoga, which you can ask if you want, is that it's you can practice it in any condition. Now, if you try to do, let's say, Hatha Yoga. Now, many of you can do it. I can see Leo is having no problem there. Rio, rather, is having no problem whatsoever. Sitting in at least a half, more or less a half lotus position there. His back is quite straight. And I guess your heart is quite peaceful. And maybe you're meditating on the, you're supposed to sit there with half closed eyes. You're meant to go to a holy place. Well, kind of a holy place here. Now, this dress is not designed for public performance of Hatha Yoga. If you're on your own, you can do what you like. If you do it in public, you might get in trouble sometimes. Some of you are welcome. These are okay, these gentlemen here. Some of the ladies will also struggle. And you should be okay. Huh? You should be okay, Ken. Come on, let's see you demonstrate. Hatha Yoga, sitting like a yogi, perched up on your, straight as a die. And, you've got to sit there. Now, you can do it for a few minutes, probably, some of you. Madhavananda is going to demonstrate it now. The ambulance is on its way. Not very good. Better than most, but not very good there. And what else? Who else? Manibanda. Are you equipped for it? Oh, you got the finger. No, you haven't. Come on. Just like a woman ape. I'm not sorry about that. Get your fingers right. Come on, here he is, Tom. Boy, look at that. He's not doing bad. Whoa! Look at that. Wow. King of the yogas. How long? Now you don't just sit there for a few minutes, and that's not what it is. That's just to help balance things, so you can be focused in mind on what on. Now, this type of yoga is not usually. They don't usually emphasize. Is there any tissues anywhere? Oh, they're under the bag. Isn't it amazing? They're so close you can't see them. It's like that with the soul, because we're looking out. We can't even see ourselves. My mind, my body, my this, my that. But what about me? We don't even know who we are. These are nice tissues. Eucalyptus oil tissue. Wow. Another one of those. Tasty tissue. Yeah, it says eucalyptus. Ooh. The senses. So it's to control the senses, to help control the senses. So you're supposed to go to a holy place and sit there. You're supposed to lay kusha grass, special type of holy grass on, and then you put a deer skin on top. Deer skin apparently keeps tigers away, apparently, so they say. I don't know about that. You can try it here. You have any tigers here? No tiger snakes? Huh? It works. Until you put your deer skin down. Okay, so we're going to give it a go. Here, I haven't got my kusha grass. I haven't got my deer skins. We are kind of in a holy place. I don't know how sanctified, how quiet, peaceful. It's supposed to be peaceful. No internet. Please turn off your mobiles. Throw them in the bin. None of these things. And no more. You've got to get rid of all this stuff and just focus on the goal of yoga. And practical, Hatha Yoga. Okay, can I have some help to put my leg up, please? If I'm sitting down there, I might be able to do it, but bringing it all the way up here is too much, Yogis don't sit on high pedestals like this. What type of yoga is that guy? Puffed up looking fella. All right, we're going for it. Now, the other part's going to be they call indecent exposure. Whoop! This chair is not a good chair. It's not deep enough. It's too pushing my back in. And I got no room to put the other leg up. Come on, Tom. Who's going to help me? Come on. Nandu, put the other leg up. What are you doing? Where's it going? It's got to go this way. It's got to come up over here. It's got to come up here.
All the way up there.
Yeah, no problem.
You sure?
Well, no, don't push it too hard. Oh, you will be sure. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong here. I can do this normally, easily. It's your fault. Oh, there we go. Indecent exposure's coming up here. Oh, this I say. This is not the right place. I can do it down there. This chair, I'm blaming the chair. There's no support on the chair. But it's not easy to do. And for most people, how long they can sit like that? Some of you can sit for an hour or two, maybe. I don't know. Pete, you can sit for an hour? Can't do it at all. I'm going to have to sit down and show you. Come on, you kids. How old are you? How old are you?
57.
Oh, you're still a baby. How old are you?
41.
41. You're not even halfway there yet. How old are you?
28.
28. Kindergarten. All right, let's go. Come on, boys. Come on. Let's just see. And I believe you. I'll tell you frankly, whatever type of yoga you're doing, this posture is not a bad idea. You see, it's quite easy. I did it the other day, but I'm tired today. They made me work too hard today. I couldn't sleep all night. And we'll be up all day. There we go. But it's not completely correct. It's on the way. I'm just trying to get them right up here. When I was your age. What are you? 81?
Something like that.
But it does. If you can't, we're not saying you should do this, but I tell you, these yoga postures can be helpful no matter what type of yoga you are practicing. This thing keeps falling off. Where does it go? Here? There? There? Anyway. And you're supposed to half close your legs, you've got to sit, Straight back. Controlling your breathing into the inner breath, the outer breath, I don't know how to do it. With half closed eyes. They say that usually, at least for neophyte, if they close their eyes, you'll be in what we call Nidra Yoga. Nidra Yoga is a very relaxing form of yoga. You might wake the other practitioners up if you snore too loudly. I remember when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement, we have a form of yoga called Kirtan Yoga, and there's one aspect of that's called japa. Japa means chanting, repetitive, I mentioned earlier about Japan, repeating a mantra, mostly for one's own, you could say, personal purification or personal purpose, and repeating a mantra and trying to hear the sound. So when I first came, I used to like to close my eyes when chanting this mantra, and I would usually, so that it wouldn't be, I don't know, I would often chant like this. I wasn't sleeping, it was just the way it was. But I wasn't even aware that one day the BBC, no, it wasn't the BBC, it was a newspaper, I don't know which one it was, in London, came to the temple to do a little article on the Hare Krishnas, and they found I wasn't even aware they were there, I had my eyes closed. They took a picture of me, and they seemed to find this quite fascinating. And it was in the newspaper, it said, Samadhi. Now, if you know what Samadhi means, who knows what Samadhi means? What's Samadhi, huh? Yeah, it can be liberation, huh? Total absorption in the spiritual objective goal of your yoga, completely purified, etc., beyond the modes of nature. So I wasn't in Samadhi, but they put that little article there with a question mark afterwards, as if it's a joke, Samadhi at the Hare Krishna temple. And these are words that people were just getting familiar with, not very, but little bit. Anyway, we don't have to do this, but if you can sit like this, anytime meditation, you're supposed to then half close your eyes in case you fall asleep if you close them fully, and if you open them fully, you might become attracted to the objects around us. So half closed, you're supposed to stare at the tip of the nose. I take my glasses off. Yogis don't generally wear glasses. They don't need to read much. Tip of the nose, And you're supposed to, the controlled mind, you'll meditate upon the heart, in the inner heart, the core of the heart. It's said in the core of the heart is the soul is actually situated, not on the physical heart exactly, but in that region. And also there is the source of all souls, the Param Atma. It means the supreme soul, the source of everything. And a yogi will be meditating in that area. His eyes are stepping on the tip of the nose. He's not meditating on that. He's meditating within the heart. And in this way, they may sit there for a long, long time. In previous ages, it says sometimes they sit there like this for thousands of years without moving to attain their goal. So you have determined here. Now that's not something for the age we're in. You can take advantage a little bit of some of these, say, situations which may be beneficial to your objective goal, but in of themselves we can't really do it. So the recommended yoga in this age of Kali, this age we're in, by the way, is known as Kali. Who knows what Kali means? Just like we have winter, summer, names for different seasons. This is a universal seasonal age, which is called Kali. And what does Kali mean? Yeah, it means that it's not necessarily a description of the, you could say, I don't know what you say. But yes, it's a description of the characteristics of this age. So characteristics of this age are that quarrel is very prominent, hypocrisy is very common, materialism is very rampant. It's like that, it's a very difficult age to be peaceful. You can understand yourself. I mean, even in recent years, we've experienced quite a few unexpected, probably unexpected occurrences. Huh? What have we had? We had COVID, right? I guess in Australia you also had restrictions and masks and all sorts of things, was it? Supposed to be, anyway. Disturbance, then the economic follow-up to all of this. Then what else we got? Now we got the Ukraine war. It's a big disturbance for a lot of people, really is. Nobody wants, some people do want war. They make a lot of money, or whatever it is. But, these are all disturbances. And this is in Kali Yuga, they're very common. Common people get put into disturbing conditions. Even if there's nothing like this, just being in this world, a world which is pervaded by, let's say, unnatural vibrations in many ways, electromagnetic waves, radio, and radioactive waves, and so many different things coming from modern technology or somewhere or another like this, which pervade the ether, which make it very hard for you to concentrate for long. You can try and get a bit of relief, but you go back in that whirlwind again of being surrounded, bombarded with material sound vibrations, both gross and subtle. And various visions also in the ether, all these things are going on. So it's hard for people to be peaceful in this age. A little bit of people do practice it, a little bit maybe there, maybe a little bit of relief, but it doesn't take us beyond the material plane in of itself. So for this age, it's recommended the yoga practice for this age is the age of Kali. It's particularly recommended the yoga practice Yogya Sankirtanam Pliya. That means the practice of Sankirtan yoga or Kirtan yoga. You can sit like this, you can sit any way you can, comfortable, live a balanced life, and you can, whatever. But the real yoga recommended in this age for spiritual elevation, not necessarily physical, but spiritual elevation is this Kirtan, which means this chanting. It's very simple. Chanting this mantra. There are many, many, many mantras out there. And Hari Nama, Hari Nama, Hari Nama Eva Kevalam. It just means these pure spiritual sound vibrations, addresses of the Supreme Being, the Paramatma, the Supreme Lord beyond. Various names which address Him. And these purify our consciousness. They achieve the purpose of all of the yogas. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains all purposes that are served by all other yogas are served by this Bhakti Yoga process. We get all the results of everything else. Because ultimately, this body is a short-term accommodation, and we move on. And the purpose of yoga is not just to make the body fit, because that's just a temporary result. It's to come to the eternal spiritual platform. We never have to die. We live eternally on the platform of Satchit Ananda, eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So Bhakti Yoga ultimately is so simple. Wherever you are, in Japan, in China, Hong Kong, even in Tibet, wherever you are, you can chant Hare Krishna, and you can attain the results of all of the yogas. It does require, of course, like any yoga, it does require a certain amount of sense control. Any successful person in this world, materially even, exercises a certain amount of sense control to obtain their objective goals. Whether it's in study, whether it's in work, whatever. There's a certain amount of sense control. If you're a sportsman, everybody knows you've got to control your senses to a certain degree, at least, in order to have a better chance of obtaining your objective goal, winning the race or the match. Even the pilots in the long-distance flights, the big airplane pilots, they have to be careful. They don't eat too much. They certainly can't drink any liquor or smoke, sometimes even food. They can't even eat garlic on many flights 2 days before they fly, because it can affect their concentration. Not even garlic, what to speak of liquor and other things. Because they have a higher goal, they have a particular objective there. So a certain amount of sense control. So in yoga, it's not, in most yogas you have to almost force yourself. In Bhakti Yoga, you probably witnessed it already, you may wonder what type of sense control do they do. They seem to eat more opulently than anyone else I ever know. Yeah. And, well, except for being vegetarian, of course, they're not. Some of us are vegan, but not necessarily. That's a kind of a restriction, but it's not very severe. Nice, tasty food is being served, and they're dancing and singing and living in a nice place, and whatever else, going for a swim in the river or something. I don't know what you do, but whatever it is, doesn't seem like the austere life of a yogi. Well, this is Bhakti Yoga. It means it's not giving up things. It's learning how to use things for a higher purpose, connecting the world around us, connecting our families, connecting our work, connecting ourselves, everything, connecting, yoga, connection, linking up, linking it up. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains this process of doing whatever we do in relationship to the Supreme Spirit. And that is taught in Bhagavad Gita and in many other Vedic or spiritual guidebooks, especially from India, more than anywhere probably. Those teachings are there. So that people living in this age, particularly we're talking this age now, can find that they can practice yoga in any situation. It may not be that they can sit like I'm sitting now, and so what if you can or can't, but they can, in the heart, they're starting to connect within their heart by engaging their minds, their bodies, etc. In this way, you don't have to make the extraneous effort of necessarily withdrawing oneself, or even restraining maybe there to some extent, but not completely, not like the yogi we mentioned earlier who practically stops eating, sleeping, everything, mating, defending, all stopped. They happen naturally as we advance spiritually. One big why? Pram Drishvanavarte. Krishna said, because we're experiencing a higher taste. If you have a better situation in the material world, you don't have much difficulty giving up one which is not as good. So similarly on the spiritual path, one was actually experiencing a happiness within, which is bringing more satisfaction to the soul. Then there's not so much hankering to try to satisfy oneself through enjoying the sense objects of this world, gross or subtle. So this is the Bhakti Yoga process, simply by chanting this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And this anyone can do, even a child. We've even seen animals taking part in this process. So it's very simple. We invite you to join us in a short while. I think it's now 7:45. If anyone has any questions, we can try to share or some interaction. Any questions? You're too much absorbed in samadhi, forgotten where you are. Your whole consciousness is completely pure. There's nothing to even interfere with your focus. Possibility, is there ever a question? Here is one, and it's from Tom. He moves around all over the world. Yes, Tom.
Maharaja.
Don't ask the same question you asked last time.
So it seems like speaking from experience that like much of my life seems to be very self-centered. It's always about like that just seems to be my thinking is like it's all about like myself. How can I come from more of a place of like wanting to give to others instead of always just?
Isn't that a sweet, let's say, question, if you want to call it that? It's we'd be amazed. We won't be amazed necessarily, but it is amazing how self-centered we can be, even in the practice of the type of yoga we're performing or trying to do. I like it, isn't it? Therefore, I do it. I like this person. I like this place. I like this process. I like this aspect. I like whatever. It's a lot of our lives are based like that. So how to that transformation from this self-centeredness, if you want to call it that, of how we see the world in relationship with me. You know, everything's based on that almost. Even yoga is to make my life better, to feel better, to whatever. Attain some peace of mind or something. It's still related to me. And that's naturally, we discussed this yesterday, I suppose, in class to a little extent. I think Vaishnavi or someone asked something related to that, not the same. How, when you're a kid, some of us are just big kids, but when you're actually a kid, say, I don't know what age, anything really, up to a certain age for sure, you don't really have an awful lot of awareness about how your behavior affects others. It's pretty much about what I want and about how it affects me. Babies, natural. It's only natural. It's nothing unusual. That's normal. Maybe cry if they don't get what they want. And then kids, they maybe a little bit differently, but they also cry for what they want or throw a tantrum or something. And when we get older, we're spoiled or whatever you want to call it. But we're pretty much self-centered, not so aware of how our behavior affects others. This is one stage, or two stages here, basically, of the awakening or the growth of consciousness in this life. That mainly it's just about me, and then it's about my senses and how the world around me satisfies me, people, objects, etc. So how to go a little bit beyond, even in devotional service or bhakti yoga, as I just mentioned. We may have a similar kind of approach in any yoga. We get proud if someone says something that affects my perspective. We get angry sometimes. Wars are fought on a bigger mundane scale over these type of things. You know, agree with my perspective, then we're basically at odds with each other, and so on. And sometimes it leads to all kinds of internal strife, depression, and mental anxiety, and so many things. So this is the result of false identity. The crisis or the problem is identification. When we say self-centered, what do we really mean here?
You're identifying with your mind and your body.
Yeah, it's not so much the soul. When we say soul-centered, it takes on a slightly different perspective. But mostly when we say self-centered, we're identifying with ourselves, with the body and mind. with their place of birth, with their particular whatever state of consciousness we're in now, our conditioned state, we tend to think that's me. It's an accumulation or a molding of, you could say, our consciousness over countless lifetimes. By association, we start to develop different, perspectives and so on, different attachments and what have you. So that's very deep and very strong. It's almost all pervasive. So I had to change from that. The whole idea is a change of identity. So when we have this bodily mental identification or attachment there, we may theoretically think or accept even, we have some faith even, that I'm more than that. And anyone who thinks a little logically or has practiced a little yoga should at least be able to theoretically be able to reason that there's more to me than just this body and mind. This body and mind is a vehicle which I'm traveling in. It's related to me, but it's not me. Just like your car, if you have one, your bicycle, whatever it is, you're using it, is related to you, but it's not you. It's connected. And definitely if someone, if you say, well, I'm not this car, someone saying, okay, you're not the car, and they just come along and start smashing the windows and, stealing everything, you're going to probably get a little upset. Although it's not you, you're attached to it, you're identifying with it. So similarly, we're identifying with this body, even though we may have some theory. But how to get that as long as we haven't got that realization, there will always be an element of this sort of reaction according to our condition of the self, what we call self. It's not really self-centered, it's illusory center. We're not aware of our real self. So we're thinking on the body and mind, so we react according to how it affects our mind and body. And we're always trying to make our mind and body more satisfied like this. On the spiritual path, we're trying to search for our true identity. We may not have realized it yet. So that's the whole purpose of yoga, is not just to see what things in relation with me. That's why in Bhagavad we have, for instance, this book, Bhagavad Gita. It helps us to live our lives to see things more in relationship to the spiritual platform, the true self and the supreme self, to see things, life a little differently, and to try to set a goal on that, and then gradually things become molded towards that goal. We do that which is favorable to reach that goal, and not just to satisfy this temporary situation we're in. So there will be a transformation period. It's not going to happen usually overnight, very rare. It takes practice, it takes time. But it is possible. It just takes time. And then one who has realized the self, you can read about it in that very chapter, is no longer disturbed by anything that happens in this world. Death is nothing more than just, whatever, just change of dress, really. Doesn't affect a yogi in any way. The body is, the pain may be there, but you're not relating to it. Because they're aloof, they're on a different plane of consciousness. It takes time for that transformation of consciousness. You associate with persons who are on that path, and we have to, it's like any, let's say, curative medicine, you have to take the course. Even yoga, there's a course. If you want to be a teacher, you have to take the course on yoga. You can't just make up your own path or just take a bit and that's it. You've got to take the course. So there's a course, there's a process of transformation. And most of the time we just want to take what we want and don't want to take what we don't want. It's like, it's the same thing, what satisfies my senses. So that will be there at the beginning, no doubt, to some degree. But if we really want to reach the objective goal, sometimes we have to do things, and we've all done that. I'm sure we've all been through education at school or maybe college, whatever. I know when I was at school, it's changed now. This is back in the 50s and early 60s. And you had to have, if you wanted to go on to a degree, you had to have at least one language, O-level, we used to call it, and at least one science. No matter if you hated it, loved it or not, you had to get it if you wanted to go forward. I was terrible. There were subjects I used to like, but those I hated it. I just couldn't relate to it at all as a kid. But I had to do it, and somehow eventually, at the fourth attempt, I eventually got basic pass marks so we could go forward. But I had to do it. In school you have to do things you don't want to do. It's just, it may be wrong, but that's how it is. And sometimes we have to accept things like that if we want a higher goal. Yeah. You can't just have, just what you want at this stage. On the spiritual platform, yes, you can, because it's natural. It's you. It's not your conditioned state, karmic state of this world. It's the free soul. The free soul is a free soul. It is you. The soul is you. It's not something, it's not yours or, whatever. It is the actual living being. So the living being is liberated, as you said earlier on, samadhi. In that state, the liberated soul is completely satisfied. He doesn't have to think about these things. It's just spontaneous manifestation of who you are. It's a little different then. It's you. This is not you, but we're acting on this platform as if it is me, and therefore we get all kinds of difficulties. So this is the practice of yoga, to try to realize that true self. And then all these other things automatically taken care of. Anything else?
Where do you think the world is heading, and what challenges to the future generations we're going to have?
Where's the world heading, and what challenges will future generations
have? How will we overcome them challenges?
Yeah. Of course, you find different Nostradamus and this one and that one, and different religions make predictions and so on. To some extent, you may see some thread there. You may see some apparent evidence of predictions. So there's a very popular thing in the world sometimes today, these various predictions which go around about the future. I'm not a soothsayer or one of these persons, but we from our experience in life and from what we've heard and read and what we see in not Bhagavad Gita, but in other scriptures we have, in this age is the age of materialism. Things become more degraded, less spiritual. But at the moment we're in right now, it is said that this is a period which is affording people an opportunity in amidst all the, whatever you want to call it. Different people will see it differently. When some people call it chaos, some people call it a nightmare, some people call it whatever situation we're in right now, unpredictable situation, just whatever. There is this opportunity. That's the most important thing. Right now, there is an opportunity, there's a window. And you've seen that in the last maybe 50 years, how there's been a window of developing, where many millions of people are looking beyond the norms. They're looking at something, there's something more in life than meets the eye. And many, many different types of spiritual groups have popped up all over the world, I think since the 60s, mid-60s maybe. At that time, of course, we were exposed to many of these different, and then even in other religions, they started to kind of shake and wake a little bit. There's a bit of an awakening. They used to call the Age of Aquarius, I think, in this hair musical, I remember. Like an age of enlightenment. It's not as simple as that, but there's definitely a window right now. And that's a long history. I won't get into the history going back, but it's predicted that this will be a little window. So there's a great opportunity. The difficulties that are going on in the world today are, for many people, an impetus to look to spirituality. And because if spirituality is available, or path of spirituality is available, it's a great chance for people to take a little interest and pursue it. Otherwise, it's simply a materialistic age, which will for some time become more and more degraded. And then a new season will come along and things will change. Universal adjustments are always taking place. We have winter, summer, spring, autumn. You don't have so strong seasons here in Australia, but in some places, strong definition of seasons, just the way time moves things along. So time moves things along. In this age, the characteristics of this age will become even more intense. There'll be more sinful activity, less spirituality, less care for others, more and more self-centeredness. Even materially speaking, life quality will diminish. Even lifespan is said to will diminish. This is a little window where things are a little bit held back, a little bit different to some degree. And what was the first part of your question?
Where is the world heading?
Where's the world heading? Well, I kind of gave a brief summary of what we understand there. Where it's heading now. The practice of genuine spirituality, purifying the atmosphere by sound vibration, by behavior and so on, environmental adjustments, etc., to bring about a more normal, simple living style of life. All these things have a possibility at this point of time. It's like holding back the flow of this age, the normal flow. It's a special time right now, and that's why you're here, where there's a chance that the normal circumstances will be not entirely nullified, will be countered to some extent by spiritual practices. The amount of sinful activities going on in this world today, according to scriptural directives, there's sinful activities, murders, rapes, and abuse, and you name it. And of course, then all the animals that are being slaughtered, and the intoxication which is unnecessarily being indulged in, and all the other things, gambling, this thing and that thing, all accumulate various karmic reactions. And consequently, I'm glad to see that someone is actually practicing yoga back there. Jai! Thank you. I remember when is Lagudi here?
Yeah, in the mornings.
In the morning. He's a real yogi, wasn't he, before he joined? And when he first came to the Hare Krishna temple, one devotee here, his name Lagudi, he's about 80 years old now, isn't he? Must be. He was a yogi before he joined. He was also a horse jockey trainer or something like that. And when he first came to the temple, our spiritual teacher was giving a talk, and he was at the back, and whole class, he was still in his head. The whole class. No, see, he used to ride around here. I remember in the 80s and 90s, when he just ride on a horse, standing on his head on the back of a horse. He'd ride around the farm. Pretty far out, huh? He was expert. Remember that with us? Yeah, I've seen him on his horse, riding around, standing on his head. Whew. I was here a little bit in the late 80s and early 90s. Some of you may have been around, I don't know. But yeah, so our desire, the whole purpose of this movement, our teacher said, is to be happy, but it's also to encourage others to find true happiness. This movement is one of giving. This movement is one of trying to bring about what people want. It may be by a different means. They may think this is not at all the case. When I meet sometimes people, or any of us meet people, and they say, "What do you guys do? I've heard you don't eat meat." Right? Do you drink? No, we don't drink. You smoke? No, we don't smoke. Take tea and coffee? No, we don't take tea and coffee. You go to the cinema? No, we don't. Go surfing? Well, some of us do, but I don't. What else? You gamble? No, we don't gamble. What else? You go to the nightclubs, sex, this thing, that thing. If you're married, you may have sex. For those who don't have sex, well, what type of life are you guys living? Yeah, I've heard people say, "I'd rather die than live like that." There's nothing left. What are you doing? You're wasting your life. No eating. You go to come to the restaurant. Come on. Oh, we don't eat in restaurants. Only Gopals. What's left? You don't go to the ball. You don't go to the rugby football match. What about TV? Let's sit down. No, I don't watch TV. Let's read a novel. I don't read novels. God, man, you're dead. You're as good as dead. I heard people say that. There's nothing left. They don't realize, why are you doing all those things? Why are you going to the casino? Maybe you're frustrated. Maybe you got some kind of fantasy you're going to win a lot of money. I don't know. Why do you go surfing? Why do you go to the pub? Maybe to drown your sorrows. That's like a negative side. Why do you do these things? Why do you go to a ballroom or a rock concert or whatever you guys go to? Why? What for? What are you looking for? I guess you're looking for some. Well, we used to look for, we call it a buzz. We're looking for a buzz. Buzz, now I've got a real buzz now, buzz in my hair. But a different type of buzz. You know what a buzz means? They ever use that term here, buzz? What's a buzz? Like a high adrenaline charge, you get buzzed up, fired up or whatever. Some drugs or some rock music or something getting you going, something exciting. You're looking for excitement. What else? Happiness, huh? We want to be happy, joyful, always joyful, huh? You want to be, enjoying other people's association, the wood around you, your senses. You want to be happy. Of course, everyone's got slightly different ideas out there, therefore you get a little bit of clash sometimes. But you want to, basically, people are looking for happiness. It's called, in the ancient Sanskrit, called Anandamaya Abhyasa. They're pleasure seeking. I know some people get pleasure out of suffering, by the way, or out of the suffering of others. Is in a different mode of nature, but they're looking for satisfaction. Put it like that. Satisfaction of them, whatever their subtle desires or attitudes, their tendencies are, etc., to try to satisfy them. So if you can find that internally, then there's not much of a need to spend your life. I mean, all these externals either cost money, you have to work hard for them, cause sufferings to others, cause damage to your own body, or result in some reaction which is not very pleasant. I remember a few years ago at the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast? Yeah, he lives in the Gold Coast. And that's a very holy place, isn't it? Everyone's very spiritually elevated in the Gold Coast, especially when they're drinking and smoking and gambling at the same time with a beef burger in their mouth. And they have very holy behavior. Well, I met one boy, Indian boy, right outside your Bhakti center there. An Indian boy, I think he was a student from India. And he got caught up in all these things. And he lost all his money at the casino. They have a casino up down the coast if you're bored. And you can lose all your money there. It's very nice. So he lost all his money. And he got really depressed. Not only that, but he borrowed money, which he lost. And people were threatening him. He was on the run practically. They were trying to get the money back, but he didn't have any money. So he borrowed more money to try to gamble again, to try to get money to pay back the other one. And he was going like down. He was so depressed. He was suicidal. Did you know in Melbourne Casino, an average of one person a day commits suicide? The casino. What to speak of the others who get angry, depressed, whatever. It's just one small example, This idea that I can get satisfaction from this. Did you know that 8 billion animals, fishes and birds are killed every day for human consumption? 8 billion, one per person, every day. There is karma for this. And we're all implicated, we've all been doing it. No one, I used to work in a slaughterhouse when I was a student for a while. We didn't know what it's just all the same. It's a job. Didn't know. Okay, some people are in ignorance. What can you do? That's their situation right now. But they're supposed to try to create an environment which is more favorable for people. Smoking, drinking, all these things. What do they really need to do these things for? They're certainly not good for your health. Are they? Is that what they say on the cigarette packet? Smoking cigarettes is good for your health. Is that what they write? I know. I mean, things have changed. Now, what they went on the cigarette packet? It went from nothing, or, this is good for you. It went from there to nothing. Then it went to smoking may be injurious to your health. Smoking is bad for your, lungs or something. Smoking is bad for your heart. Smoking is very dangerous for your health. Smoking, could cause heart problems. Now, smoking causes heart, this thing and that thing. Smoking kills. That's the present thing on the packet. And still you're smoking like a blooming chimney. Right? Smoking kills. What can you say? They're even writing on there. We don't take it sort of to heart in the same way. Because why? Because you've got to give me some alternative. Some way I can satisfy. I'm nervous. I'm agitated. Whatever it is. Somebody to calm me down. Somebody to occupy my fingers. Something or another. You can't go 5 minutes. I was in Edinburgh a few years ago. I went to visit some devotee in hospital there, and they were in this department. It was people with bad respiratory problems. They're all hardly could breathe. This was before COVID. And then it's like they get a break. They're like mostly in wheelchairs. They let them go out in the garden for like 15 minutes every now and again. What are they doing out there? They're all smoking. It's incredible. They're already coughing and spluttering, and they're still smoking. It's just amazing. It's so we're missing something. It's not. It's just such a shame. We're missing the real happiness. Happiness is right next to us, but we're looking here and there, we're frustrated or something like that, depressed. You'll get drunk. And that doesn't help. That maybe it's drug addiction. Maybe for a few minutes you feel some relief or something, but it gets worse and worse and worse. It's like putting a fire. If you put, I don't know if you want ghee. Oil's not such a good example, but ghee. You put it on the fire. What happens? Not immediately. The fire goes down. You feel it goes down. But after a while, once that ghee warms up, boom, the fire blazes more than before. Burns like fire. The sense enjoyment is like that. It doesn't solve the problem. It just increases it, actually, because we don't know what the problem is. The problem is, we're identifying with this body, and we just have no spiritual understanding, and we're just absorbed in trying to satisfy the mind and body. We don't know there's another level to life which can satisfy all one's material needs as well, very peacefully. Yes, yeah, the backside had a question. Sorry. Yes, bro.
Can it be any question about life?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess in the world where there are wrongs, and if you're one of the people who got wronged as well, how do you balance between forgiveness and justice?
Well, it's a very deep subject. Yes, one is internal, one you could say is external. In other words, you can get a little indication even from Jesus Christ. Hate the sin, not the sinner. Right? There's a difference between the sin and the sinner. One is action, one is an actor. The actor, for whatever reason, may be engaged in various activities, good or bad, whatever it is, in the eyes of public or whatever. So let's say, taking your point, something which is very bad or sinful or violent or something. So that person is engaged in those activities. What's the reaction to that? Is that, okay, it's causing suffering to others, but it's also going to cause a lot of suffering to the actor, the performer. So one who self-realized feels compassion for that performer, even though they're doing horrible activity. They in no way condone what they're doing. In fact, there will be external punishments or whatever it is in society to deal with it, both to release that person from karma, to kind of try to give some kind of warning, you could say buffer, to those who are a little bit on the edge, don't do it, and with the hope, depending on the seriousness of the situation, to reform that person from the behavior or the attitude within which causes that person to do like this, to steal, to rape, to exploit, or whatever, lie, whatever it may be, or to murder or something, whatever it is. Reform, protection, and freedom from reaction, all in place. That's what laws are supposed to be for. They're not just supposed to be for the sake of it, but all three. They may not do that, but they're supposed to be. But on the spiritual platform, they're related if the rules, you could say, are in place are actually just in that sense. But inside, the person holds no grudge whatsoever against that person. They're just thinking of their welfare. You understand? They're just thinking of that, whoever the perpetrator is, and they hold no grudge against them whatsoever. Any rules or any enforcement of punishment which may be in place is only for the benefit of that person and for the protection of society. So the two go on simultaneously. You hold no grudge against them whatsoever. I will give an example one time. It was the Amish community. Have you heard of the Amish community? This is, I don't know exact details, I just give an outline of it. But there was some horrible incident took place, and I don't know all the details. You may have heard it. But there was a time when somebody, for whatever reason, and this unfortunately goes on only too often in America, somebody goes on the, whatever you call it, runs amok and shoots people dead. It's quite common. It seems so in the news. It seems common in America, more than other places at least. Anyway, they shot a lot of these Amish people dead. And so, what do? It's horrible, isn't it? What were they, with the Amish community, they were simply praying for that person who shot everyone dead. Please help. They didn't hold any grudge. Of course, the law took place, the person's arrested, they're punished, whatever it is, but they're praying for the welfare of that person. Jesus, the same thing. Please forgive them. They don't know what they do. It's the mood of the pure, we're not pure devotees, but it's the mood of the pure devotee, somebody who has only the interests of others in mind. No matter who they are, because by nature everyone's pure. We're just covered over by various karmic reactions, and it creates various attitudes and tendencies and behavior patterns, sometimes very much in the mode of ignorance, so we cause harm to others or whatever it is, or to ourselves, etc. But when we're spiritually enlightened, he doesn't have any ill feelings towards anyone, even somebody who is attempting to kill them. They're simply praying for their welfare. But there will be justice in terms of necessary atonements, protections, reforms, etc. on the external plane. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but I don't know whether it makes sense to everyone else. Some are nodding, some are not sure. But you could talk more about it afterwards if it's still a bit of a grey area for some of the other devotees. Well, it's now 8:15, and I think you want to have some kirtan before we close shop tonight. I will ask maybe Dulcie or somebody to lead kirtan, please, because my voice isn't too bad, but it's not come back to well. It's better that it's not too bad, because that means you won't have to listen to my dreadful singing, and it would be better we hear somebody who sings with love and devotion, gets us happily engaged in dancing and chanting. When people are happy, they often dance and chant. It's such a simple thing. There's another way. This is a simple way to experience happiness without having to pay to go to a music concert or a rock concert or ballroom or whatever it is. Very happy. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. I don't know if we stand, sit, lie on the ground. What do we do? We go into some yoga postures. Do we chant? Okay, all stand. Everyone now stand on their heads while we're doing kirtan. Oh, if anyone's interested, Rasikananda, this is Rasikananda Prabhu from New Zealand. It got some nice little, this is called The Science of Self-Realization. It's a really nice little book there. Perfect questions, answers. Mantra, chant to be happy. A little conversation with Z Beatles. Beyond birth and death. A little bit of a hint as to who we actually are and what happens when we die. And so on like that. There's a few little books which he's brought here. If you're interested, you're welcome. They'll be here on the table somewhere. Maybe there. Okay, this is Dulcie Prabhu. He's from New Zealand, but a little French inside him too. And he's staying here with us in New Govardhan for whatever, as long as maybe some time. And we'd like to invite him, please, to lead us in chanting this Mahamantra. Is it written on the wall somewhere? Somewhere up there. Mahamantra. There it is. Someone else can do this. Let him get on with the kirtan. And he's more or less done it. There we are. Beautifully done. The Mahamantra is great mantra. And it's a very simple mantra too. You don't have to be, doesn't matter who you are, clean, unclean, you have to go through all the usual rules. You just chant. Okay, take us away.
I'll just start with a little invocation. So if you'd like, if you know the mantra, please join in. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyanandana Akaya Chakshurumitamina Tasmai Shri Gurute Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Staptam Yena Bhutale
Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sma Padantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Gaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare
coming this evening. I hope you had an enjoyable evening and will continue. Take this on board in your lives a little bit, or a lot, whatever you wish. I hope it will help you in your journey to self-realization. And if you do want one of these books, you're welcome. Is that right, Vasika?
Yes.
You're welcome if you want to take one. There's 3 or 4 different titles right here. This is a bigger book, Science of Self-Realization. A nice collection of different discussions and articles. And please feel free to. Please do.